Alright, so this past weekend we got a brand new film in the Mad Max saga. It's called Furiosa, a Mad Max saga, and today we're going to rank all 5 Mad Max movies. Here we go. Alright, so the Mad Max movies, I recently just spent this last week completely binging through all of them. And I was really excited to check out this franchise. I'd never seen it before. I didn't know what I would think about it. And to be completely honest, for me, it's not really my cup of tea. I'm not the biggest fan of this franchise. This is going to be another one of my big controversial rankings, especially when I'm putting in last. If you know me, if you watch my channel, you know that I have some controversial rankings and kind of flip-flop things around. I'm not like a normal person. I really have different taste in movies, and so I'm going to have a lot of controversial opinions here. I want to know your opinions down below in the comment section. And while you're down there, please make sure to subscribe, the like button, and hit the bell so you never miss another video. And let's get started with my Mad Max ranking with number 5, which is controversial take. Apparently, Mad Max 2: The Road Warrior. I had no idea that this was a controversial take. I'm not gonna lie. Somebody posted on Twitter, I can't remember who, and I posted my ranking after I saw Furiosa under there. And like, I got so many comments saying, "You put Road Warrior last? That's the best of the 80s movies. That's one of the best 80s movies of all time. That movie's awesome." To be completely honest, I thought it was a bad movie. I did not like Mad Max 2: The Road Warrior. The thing that the first Mad Max can do so uniquely is make it a movie to where it's this basic plot, but it always throws enough twist at you and like paced so oddly that you can't help but just be a little intrigued throughout this entire movie to know what something's happening. We'll talk about the first Mad Max here in a little bit, but this movie kind of tried to do the same thing, to where the beginning of the movie, there's like this really good fleshing out of the world. I thought that was really interesting. The first movie didn't really feel like this post-apocalyptic world, probably because of the budget, but this movie, you really feel like it's starting to become a post-apocalyptic world, and it really fleshes that out. There's a cool action sequence in the beginning that was really entertaining, but after that, it's just like a whole lot of Mad Max looking at like crazy things happening. And then he goes to like these people in this town, and then you think the whole movie's about him going to go get this rig to bring back and get them escape. That's the end of the movie. That's a plotline for 10 minutes. We go through that plotline super fast, and then we instantly get back, and we're on to the final chase already. And the first 45 minutes are just so aimless. So much of Mad Max just looking around the city. Hey, what's that? What's that? To where it's just so paced so boringly. If you know me, I despise long-standing shots, especially when nothing's happening. That's a problem with George Miller movies for me. So many of these movies have the long-standing shots of nothing happening. Like, you can cut a shot. It's okay. We don't need to see the entire 2 minutes of a long shot that you have, and I just didn't feel it. So much of the movie, the first 45 minutes was that. Credits awards due. I think the finale was really fun. The final chase action sequence was really fun. Made me give it 2.5 stars instead of the 2 that I was planning on giving it. So I did enjoy it by the end of the movie, but the middle just feels so aimless and pointless. And I just can't believe that this is one of the most popular movies in this franchise, and a common thing that people picked this at 2 or 1 in this franchise, because I personally did not like it. Number 4, I'm going with Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome. And I'm gonna get a lot of hate for saying this, but there's a pretty big step up between Beyond Thunderdome and The Road Warrior. Don't unsubscribe if you're subscribed already because of that flaming hot take. Now, Beyond Thunderdome, the first 45 minutes I thought was really good. It actually has a focus where we're in the Thunderdome barter town, and there's action sequences here that are actually entertaining. In fact, the Thunderdome sequence where he's fighting Blaster is one of the best 80s action sequences I think I've ever seen. It's really, really cool. There's some really cool sequences inside of this Thunderdome sequence. And so after the first 45 minutes, I thought this would be like 2 or 3 on my ranking because I really enjoyed it. And then we decide to play Lord of the Flies, but in Mad Max. Isn't that something that so many people wanted to see, was Lord of the Flies and Mad Max? No, not really. What I mean by that is Mad Max just gets banished to the desert. He's picked up by these group of kids that are just banded together, kind of like the Lost Boys of Peter Pan. You can make that comparison too. But then he just spends so much time trying to learn about them. And I think it was kind of cool because we get to explore a little bit of the past, see more of the apocalyptic future that we are in this franchise. But I just felt like it was so weird. So weird. The way we go from Bartertown action sequence to just hanging out with these kids, and then they're disbanding and going against each other and all of that. It just was a complete 180, and I could not believe. And it dragged severely once we entered that for like half an hour, to where I was genuinely getting really bored of the movie, and I started to think this is actually going to turn out to be bad. When we get to the finale, there's a chase sequence. It's not as fun as the Road Warriors was, credit those words due, but it's not particularly good, but it's still a fine chase sequence inside the franchise. So the first 45 minutes are really good. The rest of the movie, I don't know what the idea was. There's some cool ideas here, but the execution to it just didn't work. But overall, I'd still say it's a pretty solid movie. I'd still say I enjoyed the film. In third place, we go the original Mad Max. Huge jump up from Beyond Thunderdome to the original Mad Max, where Beyond Thunderdome, I'd say it's 3 stars. It's a fine movie. Mad Max is a pretty solid movie. The thing that this film I find so interesting is that it's marketed as a revenge thriller, where Mad Max's wife and child gets murdered, but it's a revenge thriller for 15 minutes at the end of the movie. We're an hour and 10 minutes into the movie when Max's wife and child just gets killed, and then we spend the rest of the movie on the revenge thriller. And the revenge thriller wasn't even the most interesting plot of the movie. The movie barely has a plot. It's just following Mad Max and his buddies as they are doing cop things and trying to stop this gang. And it can be genuinely entertaining. It's unique. It's something that I haven't really seen before in a revenge thriller, is just completely forget the revenge thriller until the ending, and it just can be entertaining. It wasn't focused on one plot, so it doesn't feel aimless either. It just feels like we're focused on hanging out with Max and hanging out with him in his job. And it was pretty entertaining. And even when we get to the thriller stuff, it wasn't the best part of the movie, but I think the whole sequence where his wife and child gets killed is very thrilling. Like, there were parts in this sequence where I was like, no, do that. I was literally up and staring at my TV like this, and I was like, no, you gotta do that. No, you're gonna die. Because I was so invested in the plot and what was actually happening. And when they die, you feel devastated because you're rooting for Max because you spent so much time hanging out with him. Now when he goes off to kill people, they could have been doing that in an interesting way, but the final sequence is really cool, where he straps a guy to the car that's about to explode and says, here, cut off your own foot or you're dead, man. And I think that's a really cool thing. And so the movie is just an interesting experience from the 70s, to where it tries to be a revenge thriller, but it spends so much time not being a revenge thriller to where the revenge stuff is only at the last 20 minutes of the movie. And it's kind of unique when it goes there. It's pretty interesting, and I really enjoyed it for that. Plus, the movie's only an hour and 25 minutes. If you get a movie that's only an hour and 25 minutes and can still feel whole, that's a bonus in my book. Second place, Furiosa. Again, a huge step up from that. Two movies, I think some of them are fine, but I'm just not like the biggest fan of those. Mad Max is a solid movie, but the other two, they're okay. Furiosa is a must-see movie on the big screen. I absolutely loved watching this film on the big screen because the visuals are perfect. I saw this in a Marcus theater. I think it was a Super Screen DLX was what I was at, and I think it looked incredible. The biggest screen that I could possibly have gone to, and it looked great. There are some great action sequences in the last half of the movie, like in the last hour and a half. It's all a tried and true chase Mad Max movie, and there are some phenomenal action sequences within there. Like I mentioned, the visuals are great. The cast is phenomenal, specifically Chris Hemsworth as Dementus. He's one of the best. Actually, scratch that. He is the best villain in this franchise. I think he is absolutely great. So this is a movie that I will highly recommend to anyone to go see it on the big screen. It even got a little bit more flair inside of this Mad Max franchise to where it's not about Mad Max and going on these big chases. The movie is a saga exploring Furiosa's life to where we lead up to Mad Max Fury Road. And then when we get to the ending, it's not a chase. It's Furiosa getting the revenge on Dementis, and I think it's well earned and is pretty unique aspect to the movie. I think it's a solid movie. But I still think it's a pretty big step down from Mad Max Fury Road, as I think it's still solid. I like the fresh uniqueness of the saga. There has to be a better way to pace the movie in the back half of or in the front half of the film rather, because man, I kind of felt like it should have shaved off quite a bit and maybe focused more on getting to Furiosa and her fight against Dementis, because the first hour and 15 minutes of the movie, we're setting up all these characters and all the stuff to kind of set up the potential plot lines for later on in the movie, but it feels epic, but it kind of a drag. It's not as entertaining as what I went to this movie to see, which is Furiosa action sequences. And when we get the Furiosa action sequences, it is a very fun movie. I really enjoyed it. But it takes a long time to get to that aspect as well. And when I left the theater, if I'm being completely honest, I could not find a way to 100% to where this movie should have been a thing. I thought it was good. I liked it. I recommend you go check it out on the biggest screen possible. But I just don't know if the movie should have been a thing. It's not necessary. Everything is explained in Mad Max Fury Road that was showed here. It's like it showed, not told, which is normally a good thing. But when we already know everything from Mad Max Fury Road, we didn't really need this movie, and I still thought it was solid. I still highly recommend you go check it out, but I would kind of been okay if it did not exist. But first place, pretty easily, is Mad Max Fury Road. I really liked this movie when I first watched it. I just watched it about 3-4 hours ago again, and still really enjoyed it. People describe this one as the best action movie of the of the 2020s, not the 2020s, but the 2000s. Or the 2010s, rather. It took a while to spit that out. But I wouldn't say it's the best one. It's pretty close, though. It's pretty close, though. I really did like this movie. I don't think it's perfect. I'd only go as far to give it 4 stars. But I do think that it was really, really good, and the action sequences are really, really great. This is essentially a 2-hour chase movie, and it is really entertaining for that. The visuals are great, even when watching on a tiny TV, which it's weird saying tiny TV, but it's Mad Max Fury Road. You need to see this on the biggest screen you possibly can. It just feels so big and epic and awesome, and the action sequences are so good, and the visuals are so great. There are sequences in here that are just beautiful, and some of the best sequences I've ever seen. Specifically, the one sequence in the beginning of the movie when they're driving into the storm, and there's like this overarch of the storm. It is awesome. It is magnificent, and it leaves my mouth open every time I rewatch this movie. And I've only seen it twice, and both times I was like that. And so the visuals are absolutely great. The action is actually great. But a bonus for me here, when I mentioned that Furiosa isn't necessarily a movie that needed to be made 100%, I feel like this movie is able to tell all of the things that we need to know about this world, about the characters, but not need to linger on it. Like, there's no monologue saying, Imperator Joe, or whatever the guy's name. I can't remember it right now. It's something Joe. He is evil, and he took over this land and conquers the water. We don't have something like that. It's all explained like, yeah, he's using these women as things, and we want to get to this promised land because he's evil. And that's all we need to know. Everything we needed was just explained in like a simple sentence, but it's not like a lingering on sentence. It's just like, yeah, we're going to the green place of many mothers. And we're just like, okay, because Immaculate Joe is evil. And yeah, because pretty obviously you're getting away from it. I could have explained that better, but it just feels like it's able to craft this world to where this was only the second Mad Max movie I've seen. and it's able to craft the world, and I just blend it in so perfectly because it's able to explain and explore everything so well, the way that things work in this world, without spending so much time doing so. And so while it was nice to have Furiosa have this big story showing us everything how we got there, I still felt like this movie had the perfect example on how to explore that world 100%. And I really did love this movie. How the great action sequences, the way it looks. This movie is 100% probably one of the best of the 2010s, probably the best action movie that came out in 2015, and for quite a long time after that. I did really like this movie, and while I can only go 4 stars on it, I still think that it's a very good movie, and it's number 1 in my Mad Max ranking. So the Mad Max franchise, not really for me, but is it for you guys? I want to know your ranking down below in the comments section. I did enjoy Fury Road, I did enjoy Furiosa, I did enjoy a lot of movies in this franchise. I just don't feel as a franchise as a whole is necessarily my thing, so that is just my excuse there. So make sure to, again, go down, comment down below what is your opinions on this franchise and what is your ranking of it. And while you're down there, subscribe to the like button and hit the bell so you never miss another video. Coming up next, it should be either my Spider-Man game ranking that I filmed months and months ago, just never got it out, or it should be my Hunger Games ranking, which I'm going to film here in the next couple of minutes. So thank you guys for clicking on this one, and with that said, subscribe to join our army. Peace out.